everyone, dear guests, welcome to Perspective. Today I'm connecting with you from beautiful and vibrant Baku and truly honored to welcome our guest, Zarina Zeynalova, the CEO of Azercell, major telecom company in Caspian region and one of the most beloved brands in Azerbaijan. Zarina Hanım is a true people's leader and inspiring role model with over 20 years of executive experience. Zarina Hanım, welcome to Perspective.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for such a warm welcome. And of course, welcome to Baku, always welcome to Baku. And good afternoon. And I know online is not easy, but good afternoon. I'm sending huge amount of energy from Azerbaijan, from Baku. And thank you so much. It's a great honor to be here today. Thank you so much for the invite.
We are very excited to have you. Zarina Hanım, you've built a very successful and inspiring career and continue to do so. So there is a lot to unpack today. However, I want to start from the very beginning. Will you please share with us a little bit more about your early days? What was your upbringing like, and how have your surroundings and family shaped your values, your character, and personality?
It's an interesting question, actually, right? It's always, it makes you think and stop and reflect. I would probably want to emphasize a couple of things. I was always surrounded from my early days by very, very strong female role models. My mother, my aunts, my grandmothers, all highly educated, super talented, hardworking, and multilingual. So I guess as I was growing up, there was an expectation, certain expectation that I would follow pretty much that same path. And that was something that was not abnormal for me. It was normal because that's what I saw. And I think the other thing was very, very important is that I also had huge amount of support from my father and from the male surrounding, so to speak, in our family. So again, it was quite an expectation that I had to be well educated, speak languages, etc., etc. So for me, it was huge amount of support around role models, very strong role models, and therefore I think I ended up having what I have, I'm guessing, right?
Very interesting.
And of course, from values perspective, the honesty, integrity, hard work, that's something that I pretty much saw around me from day one.
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious if, did you grow up like in a big household, or were you the only child?
Well, actually, it's two of us. I have a younger sister. So it's not a huge household, but clearly lots of cousins and lots of kind of extended family. But in terms of the immediate family, it's just one sibling, younger sister.
We know that you received your very first bachelor's degree in medicine, but you actually started your career in BP. So a large multinational company, oil and gas, quite a pivot. Can you tell us how did that decision come about and that pivot?
Well, clearly, one of the reasons why I went to the medical university, and I was very determined that that's exactly what I had to do, was that my mother is a medical doctor, my aunts were doctors, my grandmother was a doctor, so there was also a huge amount of influence in the family. And I actually was absolutely convinced that I had to go to the medical university. It's funny enough, my father at the time was the only one who never thought I would end up being a medical doctor. But I went to university. I'm a dentist by educational background. But I think at some point I just understood that once I graduated from the university, and I was a very, very good student, you can imagine, right? So I think I understood that I would not work as a dentist. I didn't think it was very inspiring. I never thought I would be a very good doctor, similar to my mother. So I kind of didn't, I practiced actually for a year and had fantastic feedback. So Even after that, I thought, no, I'm going to do something else. And it just so happened that at the time, kind of different companies opened in Azerbaijan. One of them was Azerbaijan International Operating Company. So I applied. In fact, my mother suggested that I apply. At the time, I wasn't convinced. I didn't think I had good language skills, etc., etc. So I applied for that role at her request, at her push. She still remembers these days. And then I was accepted. So I can't say that it was like really very intentional. But then I just loved it.
But you were open to opportunity and
absolutely.
Inspiration
Absolutely.
By your mom. Amazing.
Absolutely.
Amazing. And while we are on the topic of education, and you shared with us that initially you were inspired by your family and females in your family. Looking at your biography later, I actually know that throughout your career, even as you were already successful in your roles, you continued to gain education from various universities across the world, very prestigious programs, Nottingham Trent, Texas A&M, Cornell. And I wanted to ask you, what's your perspective actually on education? I'm asking it in the light of now there is a lot of talk of revisiting the importance of education in the modern day of technology. Some people even question it. What role did that play for you? And what's your view today?
I'm a firm believer of of education. Now, format could be different, right? It could be online, offline, but to me, kind of growth mindset makes a huge difference. It's the constant learning, understanding what's happening, staying relevant. That's just very critical from my perspective, right? And I think one of the reasons why I wanted to continue with education in different formats personally is, again, to stay relevant. And the other thing, the way I think about brain, it's a muscle. And that muscle needs to be trained, right? Similar to what you have physically, muscles need to be trained through exercise. And this is an important exercise for brain. Now, as far as education today is concerned, it's an interesting question. And actually, that's the one that we continuously discuss with my daughter. She's 21. She is currently at university, graduating next year. And one of the things that we went back and forth with her was, is it still relevant? She's kind of considering applying for a master's degree. Is it still relevant? And I think we both agree, as you can imagine, through multiple debates, and I love those conversations, that the structure that it gives you, the discipline, at least when it comes to formal education, makes a huge difference, right? The content, especially given the age of technology, fast development, changes, the content matters. It has to be relevant. Teachers, lecturers have to stay relevant because sometimes students are ahead of their teachers, etc. So does education make a difference? Absolutely. But I think how relevant it is, question mark, it has to stay relevant. And relevant also, when I say relevant, it has to be relevant to practical application too. I think what I'm seeing is that graduates are concerned about, can I apply whatever knowledge I received? Can I apply it immediately once I get a job? A lot of people complain that they can't, and it's a fair question. So education, absolutely. The format, the content have to be relevant and up to date, of course.
Zarina Hanım, before leading as a CEO for multiple years, you've led talent and people as a function in many organizations, local corporations, international corporations. People and talent is a hot topic, which I think is extremely inspiring, really cool. So you are a little bit ahead of the trend. Why? How did you choose? Was that intentional, leading the people and talent function?
It's again, I think it's most of my career was at BP. And at the time I applied, it wasn't, I'm going into HR very intentionally, right? So back then, I didn't even know that it existed in the kind of certain shape and format. But interestingly, when I was interviewed at the time, by then my line managers, I applied for a finance role, right? Mm-hmm. And then during the interview, they immediately said, no, we have a kind of good role in HR. Okay, sounds interesting. So went to hire you into HR. Later on, there was that feedback that not very good language skills, but super good interpersonal skills, right? I think I actually thought, okay, I'll start in HR, we'll see what it is, and then I'll move on to something else. And I fell in love with the function. I think there are a number of things, if I come back to your question. To me, actually, I believe that good leaders, and I worked with many of them, the difference between very good leaders and average leaders is their ability to deal with people, the people management aspect of it. In fact, I do believe that for some kind of senior roles, before you appoint someone, it's very good idea to put them through the right experience in the people function. To understand how people recruit, how that function recruits, to understand how kind of you deal with assessments, to understand how you deal with reward, motivation, compensation, etc., so that with that background, you can be then kind of, you can have the full repertoire of skills as a leader to go and lead any other function, right? So to me, it was natural. But then as I look around, I understand that maybe kind of the career progression was not necessarily natural. But to me, good leaders, the difference is they need to have very good people management skills. And my formula, and I use it here, it applies, it's been kind of, I've been using it for many years, right people, right roles at the right time. And I believe that given my previous background, my career in the people function, I actually have an advantage of understanding how to use that formula. Right people, right roles at the right time.
And do you think that differs in any way between working in a multinational company and then switching roles and coming to more kind of a local, probably corporate cultures would be different, but this formula, how did that differ as you transitioned in kind of in different corporate cultures and also different industries, right? So you went from oil and gas, now it's telco, before it was consulting. Does that formula change?
The formula doesn't. I mean, clearly people change, but the formula doesn't, right? I still want to have, in particular in the role where I didn't have the previous telco background, I absolutely wanted to ensure that my formula works, right? Right people, right roles at the right time. So the formula doesn't change. And it doesn't matter whether you are in the kind of huge corporation or smaller organization, doesn't matter, public sector, private, it's the same formula. And I truly believe in that formula. I consistently kind of stick to it. But from my perspective, it hasn't changed. I mean, clearly people change, but the formula is exactly the same.
And what was then what was motivating you to switch roles between, these are like huge pivots. You either really like new things, new experiences, or maybe it was a challenge. How did you make that decisions at the time?
First of all, I think change is probably the only constant thing that we have in life, right? So, and even now in the world, there are so many changes going on. It's why not, right? When people ask me that question, why did you change or why do you change? My kind of question is, why not? Give me one good reason why I shouldn't, right? So is it risky? Probably, but if I don't try, later on, I will regret it. I think actually even with this kind of move into the CEO role, of course, I consulted at home with my husband, with my daughter, with my son, and all of them were like, okay, but if you don't do it, you're going to regret. Might as well do it. I thought that was...
So you're here, already successfully leading for 3 years now. What do you think helped you succeed in this role, like some characteristics, your personality that help you deliver on these big tasks on a day-to-day basis?
I think I'm quite results driven, and I also have good listening skills. I like to prioritize because it's great that we all want to deliver on thousands of things per day, but I'm a firm believer in priorities. There will be some things that will not be delivered, but if they're not critical, let it be. So once I'm clear on priorities, once there's clear kind of execution plan, we deliver and stick to delivery. I think that's what helps me a lot. I also believe in having the right conversations, in deep listening and trusting the expertise of colleagues that I have. And also, once we're all clear or aligned, let those colleagues run with it. I think that's probably, off top of my head, that's what I can think of in terms of characteristics.
I want to ask on that, just to build on that, a little bit of a personal question.
Sure.
I know that, there is a lot of research around it, but also from a personal experience that females in their career, we tend to be our biggest self-critics in our head, and also like we set a little bit higher of a standard for ourselves. Every now and then, probably each and every single one of us doesn't deliver, or at least to your own standard. And I wanted to ask, how do you deal with situations like that? Do you ever have situations like that when you sit and ask yourself, what am I going to do now? Like, I'm failing, or, things are not working out the way I intended. What do you tell yourself, and how do you manage not to lose your motivation? As
you were kind of asking that question, I thought to myself, it's fantastic for us to have this conversation and it all kind of looks rosy, etc. It's not. First of all, I'm absolutely very clear that things are never perfect. That's kind of an important thing to keep in mind, right? There will be days when we're just failing, or at least that's how it feels. Whether it's at home or at work, doesn't matter. You can be down, right? You can be going like, I'm dropping it all the balls. And I think, to me, first of all, I'm not an exception. There are times when I'm like, okay, that's it, not working for me. I need to step back. We're not perfect. There will be days when we will be down, and there will be days when we'll be dropping things. I'm talking about myself. I'm not giving kind of general messages, right? And it's okay. I think it's important to recognize that we're all human beings. That will happen. I actually will share kind of, since we're getting personal, I actually, one of the key reasons why I left BP, I, at some point after kind of truly very hard work, in particular in my last role, as I was in a global role, looking after multiple countries, I felt like I was burned out. And at the time, my husband moved back to Baku from his assignment. He was on a different assignment overseas. And I decided that I basically wanted to take time out, unpaid leave. I'm burned out with 2 kids. I'm moving to Baku because I need all the support around me. And I was on unpaid leave for 1 year. Because that was it. I couldn't function. I couldn't do things in the way that I used to do. I ran out of energy. So at the time, it felt like, and I was kind of progressing real fast, so I left quite a senior role. At the time, I felt like a failure. But then I thought, this is it. I'm kind of leaving. My first priority is the family. No, I'll take it back. My first priority is me, because I needed to reset. And the family. Everything else I'll figure out later. And I had no job offer, no nothing. I just left. And I took 1 year off, right? So now that I reflect on it, back then I thought it was a failure. but it was probably the best time for me to reset. And I learned how to cook. That was the best. I learned how to cook. But it was, I should have recognized it earlier, to be honest, right? But again, if I look back, would I do the same thing? Absolutely. No, absolutely. I didn't spend enough time with me, right? I didn't exercise, I didn't eat properly, et cetera, et cetera. So there were lots of lessons learned. So that experience, I learned a lot for myself. And I've made the commitment to myself back then to do a few things differently, to accept that there will be times when I'm not going to be at 100%, be very comfortable with it, and kind of here I am, right? Still functioning. So I guess to me, I exercise, I eat well, and I follow my energy. By the way, there's a good article, Manage Your Energy, Not Your Time, that I recommend to our guests or kind of our audience. Something that I actually reread every now and then. It does talk about how do you kind of reset your mental, physical, spiritual energy, etc.
It's very interesting.
Not just your time.
Preparing for this interview, I've asked a lot from your teams how is Darina Hanım's leadership style like? What is she like in the boardroom, in the meetings, in day-to-day kind of business life? But before kind of sharing any of that, I'm curious, how would you describe your leadership style? And most importantly, how has it changed over time?
Right. This is the funniest part, right? Now we're doing the upward feedback and then comparison. No, I'm kidding. So in terms of leadership style, I would want to think that I'm a good listener, I'm inclusive, and I trust my colleagues. Assume, again, that's the formula of right roles, right people at the right time, assumes competency. So once I have competent people, I trust them to deliver. So from that perspective, I think that's what I mean by trust the team. I am delivery oriented, results oriented. I like bigger picture and context. But then within that, very clearly, once we define on what is it that we're delivering, we have to deliver. And a high level of integrity and ethical standards. So that's how I see myself as a leader. What has changed? One, I think, advantage that I had, I believe, over years is I had an opportunity coming from the kind of environment where there was huge amount of diversity in terms of leadership styles and people that I worked with. I think I had an opportunity to work with a range of leaders, junior, middle management, very senior, and clearly learned a lot from different styles. I saw very good styles, average, ugly, etc. So in a way, from my toolkit, leadership toolkit, I had that kind of repertoire, if you wish, of that toolkit, and I try to apply it where I can. I think what's shifted somewhat is I'm more gentle these days, not immediately direct. Gentle, but still kind of honest when giving feedback. And I guess kind of learned to have more empathy. Because sometimes my results orientation maybe could come across as being like too driven. I think that's what was adjusting, becoming wiser maybe. But fundamentally, I think it's kind of probably the diversity of styles that I'm trying to apply depending on the circumstances.
Some of the things that your teams have shared, like I won't share everything, but I think the things that stood out to me at least, and some of them you touched upon, first of all, is you being very inspirational in your ability to listen not just to, senior team members, but actually everyone. And I think what I noticed, at least my reflection, it wasn't like direct quote, is your approachability. Azercell is a huge corporation, right? It's a big company, and from everyone I spoke to, I felt like the vibe of you being very approachable, which is I'm inspired by that personally. So it's really cool. Zarina Hanım, you've talked about how looking at different leadership styles throughout your career. Do you have mentors or role models? Before and now, you've shared a lot about in the beginning that your mom, your females in your family were your role models. But professionally, who do you look up to?
I don't know that there are role models. I think throughout my career, I actually had a number of mentors and still do. And I think it was driven by my need to continuously learn and progress, right, as a result. And I didn't want to have one or two mentors, right? I wanted to ensure that I have mentors that have been through a certain kind of leadership journey, as an example. Mentors that could help me understand how to become a better leader. Mentors who could help me understand how to grow, what to think about in terms of kind of prioritization, etc. So, and there are a number of people who shaped me on the way. Can I name? I think there are two things that were important to me. One is the competency, as well as the leadership style and attitude and values of that person. And two, chemistry, right? Because I didn't want to have mentors who are maybe very senior, but there is no chemistry, therefore we couldn't kind of establish the right connection, etc. Plus, I had to trust those people because it's their time, it's my time. And I think kind of I've had a number of them. I still continue having those relationships throughout my career, as well as now. But depending on the circumstances, these were kind of different people. But I try to maintain the relationship. I can always learn. I can always kind of ask questions. And then it's the other way around too, right? So to me, there was a huge role, especially kind of, I think, early in the career and then maybe in the middle years. And I always enjoyed having those kind of interactions and the right relationships with my mentors. Do I have one at the moment? I think there are a couple of people that from my previous, kind of from BP times, that I have very good relationships with. So every now and then I go back and kind of test things as a kind of good trusted friend. So that's kind of, that's what I have.
What advice would you give to our audience? How do you get a mentor? Maybe if you could give us some tips or advice on how to actively pursue a mentor in your career.
So I guess it's again I can probably refer to my personal experiences, and then hopefully it will help. I think. In my kind of in previous company, there was a good structure where you could actually work with HR, and I'm talking about the formal side of things. You could work with HR, and then HR could come up with a number of suggestions or kind of names, and then you can approach those people and take it from there. That's the formal part. I think kind of more informal, clearly, again, I attended quite a number of meetings with a management team, whether it's in operations and HR, etc. It didn't matter. I attended lots of meetings. There was always kind of networking events that I went to within the company as well as outside of the company. And whether you like it or not, you establish certain relationships. You watch people, you establish certain relationships, right? I think, but it started from me. So I was very clear on what problem as a leader, human being, I was trying to solve, right? Going to a mentor, I wanted to be prepared to say, dear so-and-so, here's what I'm trying to solve. Would you agree to be my mentor? And this was the first step. right? I didn't want to approach anyone and say, can you please be my mentor? And they go, what do you want me to do with you, or the other way around? And I go like, oh my God, I don't know, right? So I wanted to be very clear, because it's that person's time, it is my time. And when you take it seriously, you have to think about it. It's some kind of work. So first step, be very clear on what you need, what you want. And then be very clear, because it could be networking opportunities. It could be guidance in the organization, how to progress. It could be dealing with a certain issue that is kind of outside of your immediate area. So it could be multiple things. It could be just general, tell me more about your journey type of thing, right? But be very clear. And then be very clear on what type of things that you as a person, from chemistry perspective, will work for you, what will not. Because if you're someone that is happy, the mentor that doesn't listen, okay, great. It didn't work for me, as an example, right? So you also need to be clear on what you want out of it. And then through events, through attending meetings, through watching someone, through different interactions, and of course in McKinsey, come on, right? You have, I'm sure you have multiple opportunities. It can be as courageous as approaching someone to say, I watched you, I listened to you, I did this, that, and the other. Would you have time to mentor? And here is 3 things I need, or 2 things. And then you can start building that relationship, right?
I love that. Be bold to actually ask
Absolutely.
for something specifically, 100%. Not just show up.
Don't wait for it to just fall from somewhere. Just be very specific and be courageous to do it yourself.
I love it. Actually, that's a great advice, even for myself. Zarina Hanum, we talked a lot about professional aspects today. Now I want to switch gears a little bit. And besides being extremely successful in your career, you are also a sister, a daughter, a mother, and a wife. So can you share and open up a little bit more what it's like to be so busy in your role professionally, but also combine all of those roles? I'm asking this for all of us out there who are already struggling, and we are not even dealing with a half of the share of what you have to deal with on a daily basis. And also, what's your perspective on work-life balance? Does it even exist?
Good question. Once I find the formula, I promise I'll share with everyone. A number of things. That's interesting that as you were going through that list of sister, daughter, wife, mother, you never mentioned me, right? Because that list starts with me. Meeting with Zarina Zainalova, that's kind of my list, right? Because I have to prioritize my time too. And then there's family, et cetera, right? Not that they're not important. I have to be in a good shape, literally, physically, mentally, spiritually, etc., in order to then really have a good time with my family. Okay, so that's interesting. That's something to think about.
Put the mask on yourself first. And then
Thank you.
else.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And by the way, that was one of the lessons learned from my stay at home, the 1 year, because that was exactly the self-realization that I didn't spend time on me. Whether it's exercise, right food, sleep, certain rigor in my schedule when it comes to me. So that was a big lesson learned. So overall, I'm very lucky to have a very, very supportive family. My husband, and he's the CEO too. So he's quite a senior person, right? So, and we have to respect each other in terms of our space, etc. But has been very supportive of me throughout my career, right? And clearly, I'm very supportive of his career. And I think I'm very lucky that I have very supportive kids. And I actually, again, as I said, it starts with me as the priority. And then I make sure that I spend time with my kids and with my husband, because it's a quality time. at some point, I actually had an interesting conversation with my daughter when I told her, and I'll come back to your work-home-life balance. I said, listen, as a mother, I feel like a failure. I feel like I never spent a good time with you when you were a child. And, by the way, we have very, very, very strong, close relationships. As I said, she's 21. And I said, listen, when you were a kid, I can't remember anything. I can't. I was so busy. I couldn't remember anything. That kind of going to your parents' kind of conferences, participating in all of your events, being next to you all the time. I just can't remember. I truly apologize. To which she gave me a very shocking answer. She said, oh my God, I didn't realize that's how you felt. I thought you were next to me all the time.
Oh.
Right? So it was again that my perspective versus hers. She said, Mom, I thought that you overwhelmed me with your presence. You were at all of my conferences, you were here and there. So somehow for her, the quality versus quantity that we had made a difference. So it's again, I think kind of back to work-home-life balance. Is there one? I don't know. It's difficult for me to say, especially now when we can work from home, when there are no boundaries between kind of working from home or leaving at work. I mean, it's just, which one is it? But to me, what's important is the prioritization. There will be times when it's more time at work, and there must be times when you're at home. I don't mean physically, but when you have quality time, presence with your kids, with your husband, with yourself. And I just have certain guidelines. I kind of, in the morning, I wake up very early. I'm the only one who has to make breakfast for my kid. No one else, no nanny, no one. It's me, right? In the evening, there's certain time when 2 hours, doesn't matter what happens, where they're all together. I must talk to my daughter twice a day. She is in Washington. She calls me at certain time. And so I'm not checking in terms of like micromanaging, but I just want to chat, right? We do it at 5:30 in the morning, and then we do it in the evening. So there are a few things that I have in my schedule, and I just follow it. And it appears that that's what they remember, right? And it makes me feel much better. Am I a fantastic mother? We need to ask my kids. Do I care about it? I stopped caring about it. I do my best. I do my best. I try to be present. That's what they appreciate. At least that's what they tell me. Right? They still miss, I don't cook these days. I just physically don't have time. But apparently that's what they miss. Okay, so when my daughter is here, we'll cook together. I mean, it'll just, I'm a human being. So, and the same goes with my husband. I'm very appreciative of his support, and I do my best to support him. And overall, in the priorities list, me, my family.
I love that. I really love that. And it's a great reminder for all of us,
Absolutely.
actually.
Do not forget that, please.
Zarina Hanım, so I actually want to turn a little bit to our audience's questions
Please,
first.
let's do that.
Actually, I love this one. And I apologize if we won't be able to answer all the questions. They are all very interesting. Zarina Hanım, our guest is asking, do you believe in talent or in hard work only?
Brilliant question.
Yeah, I love it too. I haven't thought of this one.
I think if you believe in growth mindset theory, it says that hard work is super critical and important, right? Rather than talent. And I'm a great believer in growth mindset. Now, then I was thinking to myself, I cannot sing. I mean, I don't have talent of singing, right? My kids can, I cannot. But then my yoga teacher is telling me, and I do yoga 3 times a week, that actually with the right work, with the right training, with the right breathing, I can start singing. So again, back to growth mindset theory. hard work is kind of more critical than talent.
Interesting. That's very interesting.
But I don't have any statistics to prove it, so I'm just kind of...
Okay, that's very interesting. Well, we care about your opinion here, not the statistics. Our guest, Kim In-soo, is asking, thank you for sharing your inspirational story and experience. Were there times when you were unsure of yourself? What was your strategy and decision then? And do you ever feel like you're not following your calling? And if that happens, what do you do right away?
Truly, I do believe that you need to, if that's how it feels, you need to step back. I mean, it's super important to step back and reflect. Not being emotional about it, and not being reactive, but step back and ask questions as to why. Why do I feel this way? You can do it on your own. You can do it with someone who you trust in terms of judgment, in terms of not telling you what to do, but asking good questions. And I have a couple of very good friends. And again, at home, I do it at home. I mean, my daughter is brilliant at asking good questions. Brilliant. So I can ask her, right? It's like, this is how it feels. And she just goes on with questioning. She doesn't give me any advice, just kind of questioning. And then that makes me think. The same, I have a couple of very, very, very good friends, They have exactly the same technique. Just ask questions, non-judgmental. And it helps me to actually think differently because I'm not looking for them to answer me. I'm looking for that support to help me ask the right questions. Then the question is, there's always choice. The life is about choices. You can choose to do something else. You can choose to step out. You can choose to walk away. But before you choose, whatever the choice is, I think it's important to reflect, ask good questions, breathe, kind of reset your mindset, reframe it, and then move on.
I love that. Asking questions and breathe. Okay.
Breathing, important.
There's another one, Zarina Hanım. How big of a difference in working culture between the West, USA, for example, and Azerbaijan that you have experienced? Did you have to adjust your operating model to achieve the results and goals set for you and for your company in the context of that?
One thing that I was away for almost 10 years. And I think one of the things that there are some good kind of statistics, etc., or the research shows that one of the challenging things is for expats, or stress factors is for expats to come back home. Because you think you know, but you don't, right? Because you kind of spend away so much time away from home that things moved on at home. You moved on in a different environment. So when you come back, it's quite a big stress factor, settling back in at home. So that's the expat research. That's not just me, that's the expat research. So I think when I came back, for me, the critical thing was to truly understand where do I fit? And again, remember, as I came back home, I was not working. And all I knew was work, right? So I had to, I think, reestablish my networks. I had to learn to be at home. I had to also kind of reset me. So there were multiple things going on that were more challenging for me. Did I see a difference? So that's kind of more general. Did I see difference in terms of styles? There is always a difference. It's not good or bad. There's difference between different cultures, different countries, etc. So it's difficult for me to say one is good or bad. It's different. What did I learn personally? Again, because I have such a kind of diverse repertoire of skills in terms of the leadership styles that I can kind of flex. I learned how to be less direct, right? But still get to the point. I still kind of can influence. I can still do it in a kind of alternative way, right? But ultimately, we get from point A to point Z, and I just know how to use different styles to get ultimately to the right place. One thing hasn't changed. My values haven't changed. That is kind of my compass, my inner compass. That hasn't changed. Everything else can be adjusted.
What are your values?
Integrity, honesty, courage, and actually difficult to say values, but it is my family. That's my value. That's what gives me the level of comfort, etc. But it's probably kind of integrity, honesty, and courage.
And there are lots of comments. Zarina Hanım, you're very inspiring. You're very inspiring. I will show you later.
Thank you.
How to stay both feminine and bold?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Question,
That's a
yes.
good one. I just want to be very clear up front. I am super proud of the fact that I'm a woman. Very proud of that. So
Take note of that.
really, really something that I'm very proud of, right? And it's not, I'm not talking about women are good, men are bad, not at all. You just have to be proud of who you are, with all the good and bad things that come with it, right? And I'm very proud of the fact that I'm a woman. I like nice shoes. I like shopping.
You have nice shoes.
I have nice shoes. I know. I have nice shoes, right? I like shopping. I enjoy the feminine part, right? I like when my husband gives me flowers. I love that, right? When he gets me nice presents. And then when he says, where's my present? I'm like, I'm not buying you one because I said so, right? So, I mean, it feels fantastic. Why not? And then I don't think that, I don't think you have to be a man to be bold. Right? So to me, it's again, the how piece is important, not the what. What is bold? How you do it and still get to the same place, that's a different story. So we shouldn't be mixing the two. Right? The fact that I like shoes doesn't mean that I cannot clearly say, here's the direction, here's what we're going to do, and here's how we're going to achieve it. I can still smile when I do it, right? I can still kind of dress nicely when I do it, but let's not mix the two. So, don't worry.
Thank you.
By the way, just to kind of make you laugh, in some of my previous roles, some of my bosses were very concerned when I was wearing red shoes.
Oh, what?
They thought it was quite a statement of being bald. And I was like, no, I'm not going to be bald today. So it's just one of those interesting things. So let's mix the two.
There are lots of reactions. I will show you, but you know,
Okay.
people are sending fires and hearts. I just learned. Next question from Anel. How do you think, is it worth to quit a great company if you don't feel yourself aligned with people in this company?
It's again, let's kind of go back to some basics, right? Define what's important for you. Define what your values are. Define what makes you passionate about things or what makes you stressed out and cry. Define what your tolerance level for that is, and then make a decision. Don't step away just because there is someone who said something that you just didn't like. Be very clear on your personal stand, and then make a decision. It could be that, yes, it's the right thing to do just to kind of step out, or maybe no, actually, we're going to do kind of, to change or adjust the approach. And maybe someone else needs to leave. but just don't give up easily.
Don't give up just yet. Zarina Hanım, our audience is asking, what's the most inspiring duty or hobby, whatever that helps you move forward and keep your energy level high? Do you have hobbies? What are you interested in outside work and family?
All right, so it's not a hobby. I'm looking for one, by the way, right? I'm like, when I retire, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So it's a stress factor for me. What am I going to do as a hobby? Because everyone asks that question. But I love to dance. I love dancing. I love dancing, right? And so I think when I need to switch off, I just literally kind of put on the radio, put on whatever it is. My son, who is 10 years old, and we have the same taste in terms of music, he's 11. He is the one picking and choosing the list of songs that I like. He puts it on and I start dancing. Just dancing, all right? And it just gives me a different level of energy. And it doesn't, I mean, it's any dancing, local dance, whatever it is. As long as I love the music, I'll just dance. And then that's how I reset and listen, this shall pass too, right? So it's kind of, there will be things that will not matter 5 years from now. So why truly stress? Dancing. And the other thing, I like to laugh. I like the sense of humor. So when there's something funny, I kind of will laugh about it. That just makes a difference to me. But no hobby. I'll let you know once I have one.
Actually, now that you remind me, sense of humor was another thing that came up a lot when I was asking about your leadership style from your
That's
teams.
good.
Yes, there is an interesting one from Anonymous. How do you personally approach and manage imposter syndrome?
I don't think, I mean, seriously, define it for me. I don't even think about it, right?
I love that. Well, I definitely have one, so.
Okay, great. So how does it show up for you? I'll come back to my response, but how does it show up for you? I'm not good enough.
Yes.
Brilliant. How about reframe it? Seriously, when I start thinking this to myself, I just stop. Reframe. It's interesting that we are, for some reasons, we ask the question about what if I'm not good enough? I haven't heard too many people, in particular women, asking the question, what if I am good enough?
It's that self-critic in our heads, that, the bar is too high.
Which bar? Who set it? I mean, seriously, right? And again, have you done an exercise, and maybe that will be a good exercise, sit down and write down what your strengths are. Mm-hmm. First of all, you will be writing this long list of weaknesses, and you will struggle to write down the list of strengths. Yes. My challenge to you today, sit down and write down the list of your strengths. Forget about weaknesses, the list of your strengths, right? Read through that list, get your friend to read that list to you, and then pat yourself on the shoulder to say, oh my God, I'm fantastic. Start resetting, reframing, right?
Reframing your narrative.
Absolutely. Do we not have weaknesses? We do. Can we talk about our weaknesses? Absolutely. Does it help? It doesn't. By the way, there is no way that even if you come up with the list of weaknesses, there is no way you will fix them all in your lifetime. Therefore, why don't you focus on your strength, but then be very clear on 2 or 3 weaknesses and intentionally close the gap. But stop. I mean, this thing about, am I not good enough, or kind of like, am I good enough? What if you are? Can you think of all the lost opportunities?
Reframing the story.
Just reframe. By the way, easier said than done. It happens to me too. So I just go back to my own recipe. But I do go back to my own recipe, and it works for me.
I love that. You are, preach what you actually practice.
100%. Absolutely.
Zarina Hanım, a question from Daria. You're truly an inspiration. You've described your leadership style. And can you please share how has this contributed to Azercell's success? Actually, on top of that, I'm curious, What do you do at Azercell to kind of preach all of these things, especially for females in the company?
Absolutely. So, listen, how did it contribute to Azercell? First of all, let's be very clear. Azercell, as the leading mobile operator, has been in the market for at the time I started, was 25 years, right? Azercell, as the company, had a fantastic, phenomenal history. And I think as I started in the role, for me, the most critical thing was, how do we move, with everything else that's going on around us, how do we move from good to great? It wasn't, let's just change everything, let's just kind of, things didn't work in the past. No. How do we move the company that is good to great? That's our journey, right? That's the journey that I'm into. I think in terms of my leadership or kind of my contribution, clearly I wanted to ensure that we're very clear on where we're taking it. Wanted to ensure that we strengthen our foundation as part of our kind of strategic move, because there were quite an underinvestment for a period of time. Wanted to strengthen the foundation, and that's a kind of short-term probably thought process. But also at the same time, think about what's beyond core, right? What are the things, with everything that's going on in the world, what are the things that we could be doing that is beyond core telco? From my contribution perspective, it was the clarity of short-term focus in a very prioritized way, which was strengthen our foundation, combined with, at the same time, let's think longer term from sustainability and revenue perspective. For example, fintech being one of the kind of new ventures. And to me, I think that's been quite a successful journey in the last 3 years, where we have very strong EBITDA results. We'll continue with those strong results. We'll continue modernizing and upgrading our systems, but we will continue looking for ways that are beyond core. Because again, I kind of believe in sustainable kind of growth rather than just short term. As I started in the role, a number of things that were important to me is, first of all, the ongoing development of the leadership team. Myself and my direct leaders. We went through kind of the entrepreneurship development program with the IB University recently, offline and online, because I think kind of my question or my intent was, how do we create entrepreneurship spirit in this organization, starting from the leadership team, and then start cascading it down the organization, right? Because I think we hear about entrepreneurs externally, but I want to create that same spirit within the organization. So we started kind of with myself. I went through that program with the team and the executive team. The next year, we will kind of focus on the middle management, again, to kind of put them through some similar development. We're also introducing the mentorship program, in particular kind of for females, and that's something that was already discussed in our People and Culture Forum. So we have a People and Culture Forum that we set, and that kind of takes place on a regular basis. We will be adjusting the format somewhat so that we can now talk not just headcount, numbers, etc., but start looking at individual personal development plans. Of course, individual development plans of our kind of female colleagues, and see how can we help progression and create the right level of support for our female population, in particular in technical roles in IT. The other thing is I kind of try to have regular sessions, tea and talk, we call them, or skip the level. I think tea and talk session with our employees. The next one is specifically for younger females who just recently started in Azercell. Again, informal chat. I'll get to listen to see how we can support them better. And that's something that we will have some structure around it, including mentors. Speaking of mentors, that will be introduced for the next year.
Yulia is asking, what advice would you give to a 20-year-old who is lost and can't choose the bachelor and future overall?
Okay.
And I know you have a 20-year-old one at home, so...
She asked me exactly the same question, all right? first of all, it's okay to be lost. Fantastic, right? I mean, seriously, if at that age, someone knows all the answers, I'd be scared. So it's okay to be lost. I think what is really important, and that's really the conversation I'm having with my 21-year-old. There are so many things going around us. There are so many choices. It's okay to feel lost, right? It's okay. First of all, accept that as a feeling, right? So it's okay. Don't get carried away, though. Just accept it as a feeling. Just park it there. Don't get carried away. I do think that it's important, again, back to some basics. Know who you are. Self-assessment, self-understanding is critical. Know who you are, right? What are the values? What are the things that are important? What are the things that you like? What are the things that you hate? And I don't mean technically. I mean in terms of feelings, in terms of emotions, in terms of what you're ready to do, not ready to do. Also, do you like do you like to be a decision maker, or you like to give advice? Do you like speech and debate? I mean, just kind of come up with things that, kind of describe you. So do the self-assessment so that you are very clear on who you are, right? And then start based on that, start maybe just kind of networking, establish relationships. When I say to my daughter, she says, Mom, how can I just randomly go and establish networks? I'm like, that's the beauty of it. Go and randomly talk to people. You will learn something from someone. And I think what happens once you are very clear on who you are as a human being, what your values are, et cetera, what the strengths are, then what happens once you start talking to people, once you start establishing certain relationships, once you start listening, you start out of sudden coming up with new ideas and things that will work for you. So, I mean, the reason we're lost because there are so many opportunities, not because we're stupid. I mean, really. So just again, reset, reframe. It's not lost. It's lots of opportunities. I am figuring out which one is good for me.
I like that. Positive mindset, growth
Absolutely.
mindset.
100%.
Zarina Hanım, do you believe there should be any difference in upbringing girls and boys? And you have a boy and a girl.
Ooh, that's a very good one. Is there a difference? No, I don't think so. I haven't changed as a parent, although my 21-year-old says that I had less patience for her than I have for him. He's 11, she's 21. During that time, I didn't get any kind of younger. And so I'm like, no. I haven't changed. And I just became wiser, right? I think I became more patient because I'm learning as a parent too, by the way. I read a quote recently, do not judge your parents. They live this life for the first time too. So I'm learning as a parent too. But I treat him differently because he's a boy versus her? I don't believe so. I don't think so. In fact, I think he's under more pressure than her. He's under more pressure to do the right thing because he has a very strong mother. And he has a very strong role model of his sister. So now he's under pressure to live up to certain standards as a human being and as a man. So it's again, but do I treat them differently? No, I don't. Both have to be educated. Both have to be good people with good values. So I don't see the difference.
Zarina Hanım, very interesting question. You're amazing. What's your zodiac sign? And
Taurus. I'm a Taurus. I'm a Taurus. Okay, so I'm a typical Taurus. So I love. By the way, I love my birthday. I just love it. So, yeah,
so many hearts. Maybe there are lots of Tauruses.
Tauruses are nice people. So don't believe it if you are told otherwise. But yes, I'm a Taurus.
What is the biggest challenge you faced as a woman in leadership? Not just as a leader, but as a female in a leading role.
So probably a number of things. I actually, at the time, I did not process it as such. But then as I kind of reflect on things that took place, etc., I'm like, oh, that's what it was. Because we find names and labels for everything these days, right? So, but it's probably something around, I would say something, and then my colleague would say exactly the same thing, a male colleague, and I was ignored, and kind of a minute later, that person said exactly the same thing, and then you go like, wait, how come that was recognized? And actually, there were a couple of times where I stopped the whole thing and I said, I just said the same thing. Why did you not recognize it, right? Anyway, so that's kind of happened. And in a way, some form of microaggression also when things were said in a way that probably were not supposed to be said in that same way. Very respectful, but slightly different, right? That's where you felt a bit of a kind of microaggression, I think. Now, at the time, I must admit, I didn't kind of process it as such. I was like, oh, okay, I'll try something new. I'll try an alternative way. But then on reflection, it's clear to me that there were cases of microaggression, or there were cases of, no, whatever you said was not good enough, but your male colleague who said exactly the same thing, oh, that's what it was, right? So I think, by the way, there were times at the time when I thought, oh, I was not good enough, right? But then I was like, no, that has nothing to do with me. That's just what's happening. That's okay, let me deal with it. And I kind of stopped being distracted, to be honest. I just kind of keep marching. So.
It's very interesting you bring that up. I mean, I've personally had similar cases, actually, thankfully not very often, but I kept thinking like, would you do anything different? Have you ever regretted that you spoke up at the times that you did, or vice versa? Like, do you think back and think I should have done it more often? Like called out the person on that behavior or comment or whatever it is?
I think it's a combination. What I know for sure that I probably was not courageous enough initially to stop it in the room. I 100% went offline and did provide that feedback offline. I can't think of any case when it happened and I didn't immediately go offline to say, wait a minute, what just happened in the room? So and by the way, that wasn't comfortable to those individuals.
Of course, yeah. No.
Right. And the next time I could see that they were thinking and just were more cautious, right? I think what I did later on was just stop it in the room to say, can someone help me understand what just happened? And then it's very uncomfortable, by the way, very uncomfortable for everyone. And then you just enjoy the whole thing. But I for sure, even if it wasn't comfortable initially in the room, I 100% made sure that I did it offline.
Okay, so don't.
And then that helped. I think the next time that helped to reset.
Create the standard that didn't exist before you.
Absolutely, and it worked. I mean, there were cases where things was just absolutely changed and moved. So. I mean, if you feel strongly about it and if you feel that it's happening, if you are not comfortable doing it in the room, go and do it offline. Absolutely have to do that.
Don't stay silent.
100%, yes.
Zarina, we talked a lot about retrospectively looking at your journey, your learnings, some tips. I want to ask, what's ahead? What do you look forward to? Personally and professionally, what are your goals? And there was another question from the audience. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now? So I think it like ties together with this question. What's ahead?
I must admit that I like to think ahead, but I learned to enjoy the present moment. Right? So I'm thinking kind of 10 years, but then I'm like, let me enjoy the present moment, right? That's why it's called present. And I truly, truly enjoy it. And I actually learned to look forward to small things. I look forward to traveling more next year, right? Being kind of more rigorous about it, disciplined about it. On personal travel, I don't mean kind of work travel. I look forward to my daughter finally making a decision on her master's degree, right? I patiently kind of work with her. I listen. I don't give any advice. I just listen. She uses me as a sounding board. But I look forward to it, right? Not because it will be a right or wrong decision. I just look forward to her just being happy about her decision. I look forward to, I don't know, kind of learning to play football in one of the games with my son. I'm just losing all the time. So there are kind of small things that I look forward to. Will I continue working? Life will show. But 100% I know that I will continue learning. So I constantly read. I may kind of sign up for some online courses. I'll see what's going on in the world. So I think it's one of those things, one step at a time, one step at a time. I mean, clearly, I look forward to kind of shaping the next 3 years for Azercell. And that's the kind of, we're in the middle of that exercise with my leadership team. But even there, we had this conversation yesterday, is it 5 years, 3 years? Was telco moving so fast? What is it? Can we afford being in 5-year plan, right? So 10 years, it's out there, and I'm sure things will happen, good things will happen, but I learned to enjoy the present, and it's just kind of continuously learn. So I don't know, it's probably not a very popular answer, but that's how it feels.
I think it's a very different perspective. Makes you think. Different, the vantage point. And Zarina Hanım, lastly,
Sure.
What you've shared already a lot, actually, but so I don't want to sound like repetitive that I'm asking this question again. But all in all, if you were to give one advice to all the audience, and I just want to remind that we have our audience is from all the walks of life, but at the core of it, these are young female professionals who are either starting out their career or in the middle, kind of mid-management roles. What advice would you give to them, to us, all of us?
Sure. I think there's some males too in the room. Right?
Oh, some males as well.
Very
yes.
good. Okay.
Sorry. Just to be inclusive.
And I think, so listen, it doesn't matter male or female. To me, truly know yourself. That's very important. Know who you are as a person, as a human being, as someone who lives on this planet. Just know who you are, what value you bring to this life. 2, never ever give up. Irrespective of the circumstances, do not give up. And 3, relax, because nothing is in control. So that would be my advice. And I follow it, by the way. It's not just advice to yourselves. I follow it too. If something very difficult comes up, I go like, okay, I'm not going to give up, but I'm going to relax because nothing is in control. So maybe my yoga classes helped me too in that space. But genuinely, know yourself, never ever give up, and relax, nothing is in control.
With that, Zarina Hanım, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I certainly did. I learned a lot. Thank you so much for finding time in your busy schedule.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for all the patience and for all the fantastic questions. I truly appreciate it. And it's a great honor. Thank you.